You took the glasses off.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome, or should I say, welcome, I don't think so, to Freeform Friday, because it's time to get nasty with my guests, a true legendary tag team, Brian Knobs and Jerry Sags, the Nasty Boys.
Why don't you kiss my hairy ass? Let's start with that, okay?
Hey, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice to see you. I'll kiss my fucking hairy ass with your fucking thing and shut the fuck up. No, just kidding. Good to see you, pal.
Man?
How are you?
Thanks for having us on, man. We appreciate it. I'm making this little special deal here. First one, you're usually on Fridays, right?
Usually.
Yeah, cool. So, hey, everybody, what's going on? You got the Nasty Boys. We're going to have some fun.
All right. So, my first question to you is in regards to Ole Anderson, who was a booker in WCW during your brief run there. And of course, some say that he was the architect for that match that you had with the Steiners.
That's true.
1990 Halloween Havoc.
You mean the time there in the 80s you're talking about, before he went back from after WWF?
Halloween Havoc 90.
Yeah,
90.
That all happened because of Ole. Ole came in and he wanted to revive the WCW and bring fresh talent in. So he went from small territory to small territory. We happened to be wrestling in Florida, but going back and forth. Greg the Hammer sent us up with George Scott in the NWA in Charlotte. We were going back and forth.
And Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat.
And the NWA in Charlotte was Gene Anderson.
Yeah,
tight with Ole. So Ole came down to watch us. Ole came down to watch us in Florida, and he saw us. We tore the house down to the Sportatorium, and that day he told Mike Graham, to talk to us, and he asked for us to come up or ask about us. We went back a week later, back up to Charlotte, and Gene said, "Hey, Ole wants you guys to come down to Clash of Champions in Asheville, North Carolina. Check you guys out. I'm going down. I'll drive you." So Gene drove us down from Charlotte down to Clash of Champions in Asheville, North Carolina, and we wrestled Terry Taylor.
Broken down car. We ran out of gas. He had
We didn't run out of gas. It was a gas leak. Remember, it was spewing gas all over the engine.
Well, you had to go get gas.
There was leaking. It smelled like gases all over his car. The old Gene's car, no air conditioning.
He walked and got gas.
Yeah,
but and he had the old, like a bus fan for air conditioning that just hit him. And we were riding down there for our first match ever at Clash of the Champions. So we're sweating, and he walked it. He told we were going to do it, and he said, "No, you just wait here in the car." And it took him. It had to be a 5-10 mile walk, but that was one tough son of a bitch there. But him and Ole were tight, and then we went down there, and we were about ready.
Ole wanted to test us out, so we got there, and he goes, "Well, I'm putting you on the Clash of Champions." Well, what? Okay, and you're wrestling Terry Taylor, and was it Bobby Fulton? Jackie?
No, Jackie's brother. He was hurt.
So. And Terry Taylor got with us, and he goes, I talked to Shawn Michaels about you guys, and he, spoke very highly, and Terry really helped us out. We put a match together, and we tore the house down just against them two guys. Terry Taylor's a great guy. And after that, Ole asked us to come in, on a nightly, not much money. Nightly, we said, sure, that was a great opportunity for us at the time. We were in Florida. They're making barely any money getting by, and we were going to Charlotte for NWA, and that NWA territory that George Scott started was Johnny Weaver, Paul Jones, Lou Thez, Ricky Steamboat. Just starting out was Tatanka, Ken Shamrock, was Vince Torelli, Dean Malenko was with us, so we had Matt Bourne and Robert Fuller. A good group of guys. We live in Charlotte for the whole summer and then go back and forth to Florida and wrestle for Mike Graham and Steve Kern.
But that wasn't our first territory.
No.
So, but some of them guys like Tatanka, that was his first territory ever. So we were like helping him out. You know what I mean? Because he was just starting. He didn't know nothing. He was just had learned and had some matches and So we took him under our wing there. He was, you know, and then he exploded into what he is today.
But he's asking about Ole,
Yeah.
and the reason Ole knew our background, and he knew we went through Vern Gagne's training camp. Ole was a Minnesota guy, tough son of a bitch. He knew our background. We made it through Vern Gagne's camp, which is a fucking thing in itself. Okay, so we had respect there. And Ole saw
Wahoo was Booker up there.
Ole saw our wrestling style and knew, which was a lot like his too, and that Minneapolis style of wrestling we did, rugged and tough. So we always sort of liked us. So we came in and started wrestling. And one day we're just going along. We get to Chicago, to not to Rosemont, to the Chicago, the what you would call it, arena down at the university downtown. Sold out.
And they asked us first though, before anything, they said the Steiners were getting a bad rap, and people they wrestled, they were hurting. So they said, hey, we would like to, Ole said, I'd like to put you with the Steiners and work a program. You know, they even said they were hurting people, this and that. And me and Seth says, no, we'll be honored to wrestle the Steiners. And, you know, that's how us going against them was made. Yeah, that was first. We didn't just go smash their head in the tables and all that stuff.
He tested us first. We got there and we didn't know what we were going to do. Nothing was said. Nothing was written. He goes, okay, you two, go out and do an interview before the match even started out. So the place is sold out. We went, what? You know, now, like other guys, we weren't brand new. So we did have Minneapolis and Memphis and Florida and been to Japan and over to Southeast Asia and to Charlotte.
We were 5 years in the business already.
We were ready. So when he handed us that ball, we went out in front of Live in Chicago and did a live interview and tore the house down. And then he told us, okay, now that got over. So there was a test. He said, okay, you're going to go out during intermission. I want you to sign a contract to come back at Halloween Havoc. And we're going to work a thing with the Steiners. We're going to sign a contract. He said, you can mix it up a little. But we did all that off the cuff. There was a table like this. We went out there. We signed it. The Steiners signed it. We looked at each other. We picked up the belts and just went and did it all on our own and smashed the fucking Steiners right in the face and did that melee. It got over like fucking crazy. And then we went on the road with the Steiners and went all the way through that summer and everything up to Halloween Havoc and wrestled them till we had that big match. That was all because of Ole Anderson. Even after the match,
nobody wanted
even after the fucking match in Chicago at Halloween Havoc, it got over. It was on the cuff. Ole seen that we did have the greatest match that Ric Flair and them could not follow it. That match at Halloween Havoc. Ole goes, okay, I got a 2-inch cut in the back of my head from Ricky hitting me with the chair. It was a payback. You know, we didn't care. We were like brothers. But I opened up with the belt, not just because it's hard to smash him in the face. We shot the angle months before. Even that was off the cuff. Now Ole goes, I want to keep this going. What? He goes, Sags, you got to put a beard on and a hat and a apron. You're a popcorn vendor. Scotty Steiner's going to come because you broke. We posted Ricky like 6 times after the match to keep the heat and go on. We went out. Scotty's doing a thing with Eric Bischoff, screaming, I'll get you for my brother. He goes, I have a popcorn thing. So I put a popcorn, and then went behind Scotty and Eric Bischoff and smashed the vendor thing over his head. That was done all in the cuff. That was not written or nothing. Everything was done like that back in the day. And then Knobs ran out and we beat the shit out of Scotty. And then we ran away because Ricky came out with his ribs taped up and posted them. So everything was done on the cuff like that. And it was all because of Ole. That's the old school way.
We weren't going to drop. We would rather have a DQ finish at first. And Kevin Sullivan took me and said, hey, this would be the right way to do it. Take the Frankensteiner, get the Steiners to win 1, 2, 3. And then we'll give you a spot to get the heat back. Where you still have that fury, and he was totally right. We agreed with him, and we did the Frankenstein and popped the people. They got the 1, 2, 3, and then right after that, we destroyed them and knocked out Ricky, and then Scotty was there by himself, even saying, "You hurt my brother," this and that. And then we came out and beat him up. And that kept everything going.
But did you watch him that match? You remember? Did you see him take the Frankenstein?
Yes.
It looked like he broke his neck, right?
It did. Because I remember watching what was a bootleg VHS copy of it.
Yeah. It looked like he killed himself. He killed
like it was a DDT from the thing. But
I mean, his head went into the.
Like Arn Anderson called me a jellyfish. Luckily, though, because it could have any other guy probably would have broke their neck because I did hit.
Yeah.
But by Scotty, we never had a. That's how I said. The reason they put us together at first is only like the Steiners too, and nobody wanted to wrestle the Steiners. They were hurting people like suplex, and they asked us, "Hey, we want to put you against the Steiners. What do you think?" We said we loved it.
It was like we said about the Road Warriors.
It was made in heaven.
The Steiners, the Road Warriors, and other teams like that we wrestled. They couldn't go with the older school type wrestlers. You weren't going to go wrestle the Steiners and work an arm or a headlock. And it, you know what I mean? Like say Arn and Tully, the technical wrestling type thing. Yeah, okay, for a while, but they wanted to. They needed guys like us. We were 300 pounds. They're suplexing. The fighting. The mixture of that was, and Ole knew that and put that together. It was actually excellent booking.
But before we ever got to that in '88, we were wrestling, the tag team tournament over there. We're wrestling the Bulldogs and Stan Hansen and Tenryu and Terry Gordy, and I mean, just the list goes on and on. Abdullah Butcher and Tiger Dead Singh, all these guys that knew wrestling and tag team situations. So we learned off that fact until we got to these guys. Because some of our good matches were against smaller guys like the Rockers and that. We could do so much more stuff, but we were big guys. And the Hart Foundation, they were more, Brett was technical in that, and he even says in the WrestleMania 7 was one of his best tag team matches him and Anvil ever had. And it just clicked. We had good matches with them guys because we were trained that way. We either go the street fighting way or we could wrestle. We knew both both ways to do things, and like put it into our own style. But that was being taught right and taught from the best and the respect in the business and all that stuff. And that's what we came up with. But we were perfect. We don't have complaints about any tag team.
Nobody.
We can
work from going from like technical wrestlers to the smaller guys like Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond and Sean and Marty or Rock and Roll Express up to or working the Natural Disasters and Giants. You know what I mean? And the Road Warriors, on and on. We could adjust and go back and forth. You know what I mean? But that's what Ole saw that and said these are the guys for these guys. Just like
Ole was a good guy.
And then that's what got the eye. That match with the Steiners excelled us to the next level. No questions asked. Because that was nationwide. Everybody saw it and knew and saw the magic there. I'm not saying that to put ourselves over or nothing. I'm saying that's how good that match was.
Let's face it.
And the people were ready
was watching it because we got a call a week later that, he wanted to bring us in because of that match. So we know it was that match that brought us. That's the one that Vince said, we want them guys up here. So, and at the time, Vince was, looking for good talent that can draw money, and we did. So it was the perfect timing,
And my second question would be, now, when it comes to talking about the locker rooms, how would you compare or contrast the difference between the vibe and the atmosphere in, say, a WWF locker room versus a WCW locker room?
They're about the same.
WCW is a little more lax because of the WWF back in the day was like you were in a machine, like a fucking cement truck.
That's on TV days. On regular house shows, was a house show. Yeah. But on TVs, they were maybe a little bit more strict with WWE, but the locker rooms were still the locker room. You still had fun with all your guys, still pulling jokes on everybody, and everybody ribbing each other. I mean, that never changed. So there was no difference in that fact. But the wrestling definitely was different. You had one where you had a contract, and the other one where you had to work for your money. And WWE was you had to work for your money and go 300 days a year, and so your main event, semi-main event, whatever, you got to make towns. You don't wrestle, you don't get paid. In WCW, if you were hurt, you could take and have time to mend, and they would have to pay you. You were under like a football contract. But there were no contracts. You just signed on the dotted line when you signed with Vince. But you made money. He said you're going to make more money and all that stuff, and he wasn't lying. I mean, but it's a grueling schedule.
But we, even in WCW, if you were hurt, we still wrestled hurt. We never took off ever.
Yeah, but it was more of a calm.
You had that in the back of your mind. If you did, you were, you did, because if you were hurt WWF, you weren't making money.
Yeah.
But you had a little more of in your mind, a cushion, or you felt better knowing, hey, if I am hurt, I only got money still coming in. But we still would never miss a match. We had a sprained ankle or a banged up knee, you taped the fucker up and went in the ring. So, that's the way that's the way it was back then,
Yeah.
So, but the locker rooms are pretty much the same. Yeah. But the WWF was a lot more stressful schedule, stressful on the road, and the thing. But you got used to it.
Good
the
times
locker rooms really didn't change that much. The camaraderie was the same, but wrestler to wrestler. I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it was the same. We had our friends and
joked around, went to bars, groups hung out together. This group hang out, this group hung out. So, but we usually all got together, even in WCW or WWF, especially when you're on a European tour or something. Everybody would get together. We all go away, meet at the lobby bar, and then go from there. And scammer, have maybe 2 spots, and some people would go to this spot, some people would hit both. We would hit all of them.
That's a good question, though.
So I have a third question, but this one's mainly for Brian. Can you say something about your stint as the masked terrorist in the AWA prior to forming the Nasty Boys?
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I know. Can you believe that?
They put a mask on.
They wouldn't even be able to use that today, saying, because of the way terrorism is and all that. But back then, I had a swastika on my mask because Rated Crippler Stevens gave me that mask. But because at the time, they picked me to be in that spot, somebody got hurt with Colonel De Beers, and it was Russ Francis, who was a big-time football player, and Jimmy Snuka at the Cow Palace main event. And they had somebody that had to fill in there, so they made me the masked terrorist. And I fucking couldn't breathe in that fucking thing, and we went all the way around the loop. And then one time I came back, and I asked Kurt to take it off. And the ass put a knot in the back of it that I couldn't get it off. I wanted to rip my mask off because he couldn't breathe. I'd run them screen things in, and we were in Denver, but it was an honor because every night I'm learning off Colonel De Beers, Snuka, and Russ Francis was one, but I forget who. That was a special occasion, that one. Then we went to a couple other places with other guys, but you're in a main event right off the bat, just like when I was in the Royal Rumble, the first one, and SAG wasn't. I think he was Sam Houston, and I don't know why they didn't put him in. And I looked down, I think I got in at number 15, and when I looked down the chart, I kept looking. The last 3 in the ring are me, Earthquake, and Hogan. I went, what? Are you fucking kidding me? We just started in November, and there's January, and they got me for that. And I'm like, and that's when I really felt the power of Hulkamania, because you were in there. It was me and Earthquake, where Jimmy Hart managed our teams. So we were all a big family. Jimmy Hart's family. Dino Bravo was in there. Earthquake, remember? We had our gang of guys. So we did the thing, and then Hulkster said, how do you want to go out, kid? I said, the boot over the back. He goes, you sure you can take that bump? Because I was about 300 some pounds, but I had so much adrenaline pumping. I didn't even feel that he hit me with that boot. I went right over. Didn't use my hands or nothing to hold on. I just went, you know. But that was, that was,
Who the
But-
hell remembered the mass terror? I even forgot
Yeah,
about
no.
Well, I
I
can tell
just-
you. I could tell you who wrote the question.
No, I thought about that the
Yeah,
other
but
day
who,
because Russ
that.
Francis
But it wasn't
was a
on
big football
TV
player.
ever or nothing. How
No,
can
it
people
wasn't.
know about that?
It was
It wasn't on television
but it had to be people out of
from the West.
From the West, yeah, because that was Russ Francis, packed Cow Palace.
The people didn't know that Vern Gagne
And Jimmy,
wrestled with Russ Francis' dad,
yeah,
the guy that won the Super Bowl with the 49ers there. That's Vern used them to put the kids' popularity and pulled them into wrestling.
well,
So remember they came all of a sudden to Minnesota and did an interview.
But Jimmy in San Francisco and Russ Francis, who's big
Were over.
49ers,
Yeah.
and Jimmy, all the Samoans in San Francisco, and that's where the Opera Seeker are from. You know, so you're definitely even when we wrestled the head shrinkers, and who comes back but Tonga Kid, and he must have had about 30 Samoans with him in the car. They opened up the trunk. There were all kinds of stuff in there. I'm not going to say
we were
implicate anybody, but Chief Jay or Rene Goulet didn't say nothing because usually they were strict about bringing people in the back, but they let Tonga Kid come back. There was about 30 big Samoans all coming in the back at the Cow Palace, and I looked at SAG, and at the time we were baby faces and the head shrinkers were heels. I said, well, I guess we're going to put on our bumper shoes tonight because we ain't going to be baby faces here because
That's right.
the crowd was mainly, half Samoan and half this and that. And, we know we were going to be big bumping, but what an honor to be in the ring, though, at that stage of my career. That was 86. That was right when we were only in about a year. That was 86.
Are you talking about the head
Russ
shrinkers
Francis,
now?
Russ Francis.
Yeah, we just got out of camp.
Yeah, we just got out, and then I get put in that match. I was like, oh my word, this is amazing. I mean, to go have that feeling and wrestle and being right on track of whatever they wanted to do. And let me tell you, Jimmy was heavy coming off the top rope because Colonel LeBeers wasn't getting the splash. It was definitely me. And it looked good, but he felt it. And he was at the time, he was a big guy. He's about 250, shredded.
Who said? Who knew that? Knew that?
Well, my broadcast colleague Alan Greenberg.
Yeah.
In fact, he used to have his own wrestling newsletter called Between the Ropes. It was
I remember,
a local publication which started in 1991 and lasted until 2006.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in the same time as Meltzer started the kayfabe sheet thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Run-On Sentence himself.
There was really no internet, and those sheets were hugely popular. So it put in between the wrestling magazines and a new way to find out about what's going on. But it really,
I still never met him.
they were
Meltzer.
We met him, but it really
it
fucked up the business because they were exposing the business.
I don't even
Because they had stooges inside that were telling the end game of what's going to happen in that before he was paying people or something. That was fucked up times. Pre-internet days,
Now everything's on there.
Yeah, now
social media, that everybody has their own opinions.
Yeah,
some of them are so stupid. I mean, Jesus Christ.
So that was his question. What other question you got?
All right. Well, another question that I have for you is, whose idea was it to turn you babyface in 1992?
The fans.
Yeah,
the fans. It was the fans started
plus
liking us.
Plus, sort of, we were set to go, possibly with on a good angle with the Rockers, Sean and Marty, right after the LOD and all that. Because we went on with six mans, where we were with Mountie and the Bushwhackers in Duggan, the Bushwhackers in where you did some with Roddy Piper.
We did a couple 6 minutes with the Rockers too.
Yeah, and then it was Sean. Then
High
instead,
Energy.
Coco
and Owen.
Yeah, it was time. If Sean wouldn't have turned on Marty in the state, they would stay in the tag team. But Sean was ready to move on I mean, we were going to go in, but so we really were sort of. I was in a day where you didn't stay in a company for too long. You know what I mean? You had to run a couple years, would it be 3, 4, 5?
Did the Road Warriors? We dropped the belts.
They left. They quit.
Yeah, they left, and then after they left, I think they wanted to pull us to be babyface.
To take,
but the fans are going for us too. It was half, the office wanted to turn us, but the fans actually turned us too. Like we were heels, just like the Road Warriors were heels first, and the fans turned them. Demolition was heels, and the fans turned them. It just happens. There's only a few that stay heel. Like one was Rick Rude. He never was babyface. He was always heel. You know what I mean? Like you can't even say that about Flair. He was heel for most of his life, but he was babyface too there. He was babyface. Then he turned, as he got older now, he was babyface again. But, that's why it was such a shock for everybody with Hulkster. When Hulk finally turned, you know what I mean? He was a heel from the beginning. People don't know that in the early 80s he was a heel.
After being Hulk, he kept that in his back pocket, knowing that's another run someday.
But he said on a thing I just read that he actually went to Vince when he knew his time about WrestleMania 10 and 11. His time was gone as a babyface. He wanted to switch that thing, and Vince didn't want to let him switch and said, "I think that it's all gone, out and this and that." And he goes, "Well, then I'll just get out." And then when we went to WCW, and then he went as red first, and they said switch him to heel. He wanted to do that. So if Vince would have thought ahead of time, Vince would have been the one doing the Hogan switching up there with a kind of could be, if you really look at it in them aspects, that if Vince was thinking ahead and would have thought of Hulkster as a bad guy and that it would get over like that. You know what I mean? But then he came in as the NWO guy right here in Toronto, and you guys switched him back. They did everything but throw the Rock off a cliff. They hit him with an 18-wheeler, and still he came in, and then the fans were cheering him and booing the Rock, So, yeah, it's crazy. The fans are the ones that turn, just like they didn't want to go with this year, and the Rock's professional, man. They didn't want to go with the Rock and Roman. The fans changed that match. So much backlash on the social media, and they said, "Hey, wait a minute, we'll just go with that." They wanted to see Cody wrestle again, and finally finish the story, which he did, and he worked his ass off. More power to him. That Sags his nephew.
Next question.
So after the babyface turn, I know, Knobs, you alluded to this in a prior interview. The original plan was for you to get the babyface run as the tag champions and to dethrone Ted DiBiase and IRS at Mania 9. Of course, that all changed. And was that the writing on the wall, all the writing on the wall you needed to realize?
Writing on the wall was I went fucking nutso, and Vince was saying I needed an attitude adjustment, and calling Sag to say maybe he should go single. And then we we also knew Dusty, and Dusty was calling saying we could come down there. So we had a lot of things going there, but that really hurt. He was pissed too, though. Because you work 7-8 months. They changed us there with Jimmy and the IRS, so we worked so hard to get to that point, and we knew where we were going. It's like almost like Cody Rhodes saying, finishing the story. Then you get the rug pulled off from underneath you, and you kind of go this way again. What's going to bring us back? Back up the other way. So I was really pissed. So they didn't let us go. We asked to leave.
And of course, you would eventually make your way over to WCW. Whose idea was it to pair you up with Missy Hyatt? And was Jimmy Hart ever part of the conversation?
Well, Jimmy wasn't in the company at the time, so we had no manager in WCW. I think it was Dusty. Dusty did it to put a sexy woman with us, and then Missy came out, but she wore these like a really sexy dress and stuff. We said, hey, we need to nasty you up. We did that to Jimmy too. Jimmy got a splash jacket. He put the motorcycle helmet on, the splash glasses, nasty Jimmy up instead of the hearts and everything on there. You know what I mean? So Missy came. She went and got herself a leather coat, the ripped jeans, this thing, and she was a hot woman. You know what I mean? And then she was the nasty stuff on it. I think she looked even better. You know what I mean? It was really a pretty good deal, you know. But she wasn't
But Jimmy and her are two different.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy's a manager. You know what I mean? She was more of a, she didn't get involved as much. Back when she was our manager, she didn't get involved too much, and she didn't have the timing. But Jimmy always had the timing. He knew when to jump up. He knew when to be there. People love that when they see Jimmy Hart would get grabbed by somebody.
We had to yell like at Missy a couple times because we're on TV and we're doing an important spot. It could be either the heat or something that's very important. And Missy at that time would do something to take the attention or the camera off us and put it on. Hey, listen, you have to get your timing. We sort of helped her with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't do this and we're doing this. Okay. We'll let you know. Stay there. You don't act up or mess with fans when we're doing an important spot that's integral to the match. Things like that, where Jimmy would be spot on. Yeah. So he's had the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That type of thing. But it's just a learning process,
Any fond memories of your time with Missy?
We always had a good time at the time. You know what I mean? And
we put her through hell, the poor woman. You know what I mean? She went to Nastyville a bunch of times. She got tortured, but then Hawk came in.
Jimmy only rode with us for the first 10-day road trip, and afterward he said, "Okay, I showed you how it is. You guys are on your own." So because 10 days on the road with the Nasty Boys, that was it. And we were rooming together, me, Sag, and Jimmy. So I let Jimmy tell you that story. And finally he said, "No, you guys are good. You know how to do your thing. We'll see you later." So then my brother-in-law, Greg the Hammer, came in and we were riding around with him after that.
And also in WCW, you had a feud with Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, and Max Payne. What do you remember about that program? And are you impressed or were you shocked to see what Mick Foley would become as a star working for Vince McMahon?
We actually helped propel him in his thing because the comp, like I said, you asked about the Steiners and Ole. Mick Foley couldn't go out and work with like a Tully Blanchard or a technical wrestler either. So early on, they knew this guy's a natural match with us because that guy's seen us in Tennessee and different things where we did the street fight type thing. And Mick really never did nothing like that either to that craziness of it, which later would become the hardcore shit that was bullshit. When they would bring out a dumpster full of shit, we'd use different things, but then we would build an angle up that led to a finish. It's going to end in a street fight. In the old days, that would end in a cage match. You know what I mean? So I think we helped Mick Foley propel to his future, which would be the great thing he did, the match he had in WWE and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We were integral in that part with him, like he was with us, to us, because we couldn't have did the stuff. Nobody would take the bumps like he
had
did.
Great ideas too.
Yeah.
The bumps you would take were just unbelievable. And we just hooked up, and then Max was kind of just in there at the time.
Max Payne wasn't that great.
It was all right. Wrestling,
but Mick's future was went against Harley and Vader after that, and the single thing. That's where he tore his ear off doing that old bump. The ropes were too tight and ripped his ear off his head.
Oh man, me and Sag would have loved if at the time instead of Max, Cactus could have brought Terry up, Funk, because that's who he idolized, and they wrestled the same way. Because Funk would go crazy. Even though we wrestled Funk later with Bunkhouse Punk, It would have been better with Cactus and him because them two really meshed good. Bunkhouse Punk and Terry, I didn't think they were a good tag team, but Terry needed someone. If he was with Cactus, we would have been doing the craziest shit because Terry liked doing the crazy, the real wild stuff. Terry Funk did.
We got in a little bit with Terry.
But Thing didn't. Buckhouse didn't wrestle like that. Buckhouse was
no.
just wrestling because he's Robert and him were different kind of wrestlers back in the day in Continental.
And
wrestling.
Sully sort of did that thing, but
Yeah.
Sully was an opportunist. Kevin was booking, so when he came in the
Kevin
book,
wrestled
like
that
he
way,
threw
yeah.
himself into getting Benoit over. He put himself in there because he knew this was going to be a huge thing. Kevin came in and put himself in our thing because he knew it was huge, and ended up going into instead of Max Payne, Sully went into the match, the Broad Street Bully match, which was probably one of our best matches there. You know what I mean, in Philly. So he injected himself into it, you know.
And he was used to fighting that way anyway, you know, because the way he
in a way,
up.
but not to that level.
Not to that level either. He was the blocker. He liked to block everything.
He did like the
Cactus,
Abuda in Florida. He did the Abuda thing, and almost like an Abbey gimmick where he'd stab people in the head or whatever.
Me, him, and Cactus never brought up our hands and shit like that. We would take the hit. Kevin was a blocker. He tried to block everything, and he knew me and Sag were coming after you, you know. And Cactus didn't care, and we didn't care about Cactus either. We always trusted him. You know, we knew stuff was going to hurt, but
we could have had the match.
Hurt us.
We could have had the match of me and Knobs against Cactus by himself. Put it that way. You know what I mean? That's how good Max. We still call him Cactus Jack. He went from Mick Foley to Mankind to Brother, all his other gimmicks. We still call him Cactus. Like when we see him, hey, Cactus.
That shows you how talented he is, though.
Yeah,
he got over in every one of his characters.
Yeah,
Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Brother Love. I mean, how can you? That's a talent SOB right there.
No, it was Dude Love. Brother Love is Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, he's just saying it wrong.
I meant Dude Love. But I mean, he got over with that.
And then the sock.
Did.
What about the sock?
And look at who tagged themselves together. He got tagged with Stone Cold. He's got tag team partners with The Rock. You know, they always gave him that, and he always played them different, you know, deals, so they always came out good. So Cactus is not only a good friend, but man, really his work and everything he does, he puts everything into it. That's why we're all beat up here. You know, a lot of the wrestlers our age, you could tell it, you know, even Undertaker, you know, it wears on your body, and the stuff we did for so long, there's no, the wear and tear just rips you up a little bit, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? So I don't see nobody really standing tall without any aches or pains that's been in the business over 30 years, including a Bret Hart, including an Undertaker. You know, he'll even tell you, the joints to this, to that, you know, so. But it comes with the territory, and for have fans come up to you and say, "Hey, you were my childhood," and now they're showing their kids tapes on WWE who they used to watch. It's honoring. It really is. It makes you a little bit humble. Say, "Hey, we did something right," So, but yeah, man, thanks for some good questions you've been asking.
Well, I wanted to pivot back to your stint in the WWF. You had singles matches with Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, and you also had a tag team match, which, from what I recall, was during the SummerSlam '92 Spectacular.
With Macho in?
Yeah, with Macho, before they called themselves the Ultimate Maniacs. What are your memories or recollections of working with Warrior, and what was he like to deal with at the time?
Warrior was fine. We knew that, he wasn't the greatest of workers, but I mean, we could work around anything. But we knew
his nose.
Yeah, we knew that we knew what our part was in that, and that was to set the stage to turn Macho and Spot Knobs did to turn Randy against Warrior, and that was the one when Randy's back was turned. Knobs moved and Warrior ran into, or how did that work? So Randy thought it was him, so that was this setup for them to go against each other, and that was I wanted to do something else in SummerSlam '92. I thought they should have continued that, because just that flat match with Macho and Warrior was and that was for the world title prior to Brett and Davey, it just didn't work. I thought that we should have did. I thought we should have still did we should in '92 we opened the show in Wembley, but we should have did something else. Like I was thinking like hide under the ring or something and pop out and curtain flare and keep that mosh going, because that TV match we had with Macho Man and Warrior against Mia Knobs and Rick and Flair Kurt and Flair coming out and beating the fuck out of them. That rating was huge, and we tore the house down. But they just went on and put through Randy, and
we won that match, by the way.
Yes, you did.
But the count out, but we won.
It was a perfect setup for them going into that match. But I think we should have did something there because to keep it going.
My match with Warrior inside came out, and then I broke his nose because I told him elbow, and he was getting up from the back.
Well, I hit him with the chair.
You hit him with the chair, but he's used to getting up right away. So he was, that slammed him. He tried to get up. I elbowed him, and when I'm going to elbow him again, Warrior tries to get right back up. So it was kind of his fault too, where he should have just stayed there for a minute or two, let me throw a couple elbows. But I drove his head and broke his nose. But that match got Papa Shango involved because Papa came out there after we did our deal,
put a spell.
And then did the spell and did the that's when the build up for, I guess, WrestleMania, right? I think it was for WrestleMania.
They never actually had a pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
They never actually had a pay-per-view match.
That was for the angle. He came out there, I remember.
But a lot of people say you should be able to work with anybody, but Warrior was Warrior. You know what I mean? There was no way. He was in the hardest spot on earth, and the guys that were like loyal to Hulk, like us and everybody, Hulk did drop like Andre did for him, but really Hulkster didn't want to let go of those reins yet. So Warrior was like almost like a set up to fail type deal where you got thrown, to take that spot, which that was a hard gig to take over at the time. You know what I mean? You're going to be the next Hulk Hogan. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Come on. You know what I mean? The guy, I sort of pitied him that in a way there. You know what I mean? It was like getting thrown in the fire,
But it just shows you the mentality of someone that's been in the business longer, because when they put Hulk, driving him out of the stadium, Hulk looking so dejected, the people felt sorry for him losing.
Yeah.
So they weren't happy for Ultimate Warrior winning.
Basically, it's like, oh, sure, you want to, here you go, Warrior, good luck. And
it almost worked
like
that way
setting a guy up to fail.
But it almost worked that way with The Rock too, though.
Yeah.
Because when Hulk came back out, he was supposed to be heel. He did everything to be a heel, and they still cheered him. So just like that, he lost, and it was in Toronto too, wasn't it? When Warrior beat him, same place, and he's leaving the ring, and he had like a little boo-boo face on there, and everybody went, "Oh, poor Hulk, fuck you, Warrior," But I know when they were going head to head there, and Hulk had a card and Warrior had a card. When you were wrestling, you wanted to be on Hulk's card because he was always selling out. He sold out every building. Sometimes the Warrior would do good, but he just didn't sell out the building. But
you could sort of feel it was all coming to an end. You know what I mean? There was a transition period that needed to be. And when we came in, me, him, and Undertaker came in at the same time. They were the same way we talked about Ole. Ole was bringing fresh faces in to rebuild the WCW when we got the break with the Steiners because of Ole. When we got pulled up to Vince to early 90 the WWF, it was the end of the Hulk Hogan era. It was, they were facing the music there, and there was a bad, business, but we put a new spark in it by new guys coming in. You know what I mean? And we are set to go back. We are set to come back again out of the WCW and come in with Mick Foley and Stone Cold. We are set to go in with them guys. We said no and took a bigger contract instead. Now look at it. We should have got the fuck out of there and went back. We always jumped at the right time.
I admire you know, and he's a good friend of ours. But I admire Taker big time because he never left the WWF.
Yeah.
He stayed there and he was on top to hold that spot for that long. And his wrestling, and he wrestled as a big guy. Some big guys don't do a lot. He used to do a lot. He did everything, you know. So to be there that long, and you know, you go through injuries and that's a hell of an accomplishment. Like even Chris Jericho now, he's getting up there and he's still out there, not only doing that but doing the Fozzy thing, and that's a lot of time on the road. You get older, man, you know you got to be hurting. I mean, really. I mean, there's no way around it. When a body slam's a body slam.
Taker
This
was
is that.
like Earthquake though, big, but was an athlete, coordinated, and could that, you know, for a guy that size to walk a top rope for that when he come off and hold your arm and come down and just to walk that rope. But Quake could move like that too. They were coordinated athletes that could really work. So that gave him longevity like that, the gimmick. And the gimmick was huge too.
Yeah.
I mean, when we hit that, you were talking about going to SummerSlam and the first tours of England and stuff, we pulled the bus up to Royal Albert Hall or Wembley, and there was thousands and thousands of people in the parking lot and outside.
Yeah.
And a good amount of them had nasty boys like dressed like us, but more than that were
Takers.
Undertaker's gimmick was over. They had the hats and everything. It was like, what the, you know, the people, you know, I mean, it really took on. It was like a, you know, crazy, you know, over.
So what's your, I'm going to ask you a question. What's your deal? Like they bring up, you see all the social media stuff. People were thinking that Stone Cold was going to come out at the end. What do you think?
Where?
I would have, well, if we're talking about the main event of Mania 40 Night 2, ideally it should have been Stone Cold that did do the run-in as opposed to the Undertaker because of the history.
He could still take it and take that pop because you hear the people when they heard it was him, they still went crazy. But you know, I kind of agree with you. I don't know what the story is behind it, but I think people were ready to hear that breaking of glass and Stone Cold coming down to give the cutter. You know what I mean? So I because they went through like what's his name, his whole career. You know, when Rocky finally got out there, you got to see the feuds that were there. They would bring back everybody. You know, just like the Shield came out and this and that. So it was amazing. Whoever thought that up, they came up with a hell of a finish. You know, whether you use the Undertaker or Stone Cold, but like I said, Stone Cold and the Rock had them ultimate matches when we were in Nitro. You know, that's what was going on.
One last question.
One last question. In closing, do you have anything to say to the fans of yours here in the city of Montreal?
Oh, thanks for having us here. God bless our guys here from the LVW here. Our buddies for bringing us back because it's been way too long. We love this city and the greatest fans all across Canada. We had some great matches up here and always good times.
Yeah,
from East Coast to West, up to Halifax to out to the from Calgary and the Cowboys and where the hell ever we were.
Yeah,
Montreal is always a special place. We love it, and thanks to the fans up here.
And always and then me, because we're here the week at this last Monday. You had, you know, the same building we used to wrestle in.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And just the enthusiasm of the fans are still there because when we back in the 90s, that's the way the fans were back when we were wrestling. Same way.
Yeah.
So you just got the greatest fans in the world up here. Really enthusiastic wrestling fans that love the sport of pro wrestling.
And we were lucky enough to meet, like we were talking about on the other stuff. You know, Frenchie Martin and Dino and the Rougeaus and Rick Martel and Gino Brito and all the old Mosca and all the old time, the new guys and all the French Canadian wrestlers because of Pat Patterson's influence in WWF and Pat, you know, got to
Pat
know
was always
guys.
First class, man. Pat Patterson was always first class to us. So, but the this Montreal special place for pro wrestling, and special place for the people up here. Always a good time.
I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I really do. When I'm here, I feel like I'm in Europe or something like that. You know, it's only, you know, a little across the border from the U.S. You know, gives you that feel. Awesome place. Hey, God bless you guys. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
All right.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, our pleasure to be with you. Be nasty and go fuck yourself.
Oh, Canada!
God bless the Mountie.
All right. And in closing, I'm going to be nasty myself.
Oh.
In the words of Ole Anderson, quit being so damn dumb. And in the immortal words of Jim Cornette, thank you, fuck you, bye, goodbye, good night.
Classic.